Kash Patel vowed under oath to keep politics out of the FBI, but Deborah Ross brought the receipts, revealing documented actions he never wanted exposed. This isn't theory, it's an undeniable fact.
Pursue some of the things that you were just talking to Mr. Fry about and remind you about your confirmation hearing. At your confirmation hearing in January, you said under oath, and I quote, "There will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken by the FBI should I be confirmed." And in your written response to the Senate questionnaire, you said, I quote, "Personnel decisions shall be based on performance and adherence to the law, and every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments." So I want to just go through a couple scenarios with you to get a sense of whether you think these are examples of politicization of the FBI or making decisions based on the performance and adherence to the law. So, first question. Would hiring FBI agents, analysts, and supervisors from only one political party being politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
We don't ask FBI people, applicants, where their political parties are.
Mr. Patel, do you ask FBI applicants who they voted for?
The FBI does not.
Are you aware that in the lawsuit that Mr. Driscoll filed against you and the FBI, he was asked who he voted for?
Since that lawsuit has been filed and it's ongoing litigation, I'm not able to comment.
Well, but it also means that you just said that what happened in his situation didn't happen. So we will go on to the next question. Let me ask you an even easier one. Does firing agents for working on the cases that they were assigned to and that the president didn't like, is that politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
The FBI doesn't terminate anyone based on case assignments alone.
Has the FBI ever been sued by somebody who felt that they were terminated based on case assignments?
In the entire history of the FBI, I'm sure they have.
No, since your tenure.
I'm sure there's ongoing litigation.
Yes. In fact, there is ongoing litigation. And in fact, people have been asked who they voted for. And in fact, you are running an FBI for the President of the United States rather than the people of the United States, because my questions were not hypotheticals. They are the things you have done during your tenure. And according to a lawsuit filed last week by long-term FBI agents, you fired former acting director Brian Driscoll. He had served with the Bureau for nearly 20 years, earned a Medal of Honor, Medal of Valor for bravery during the dangerous ISIS raid, and had a wealth of crisis response experience and led the FBI's critical incident response group. When the Trump administrations interviewed Mr. Driscoll for that role, they interrogated him about his political leanings and who he voted for in the last 5 elections. Questions Mr. Driscoll refused to answer because those types of questions impermissibly politicized the FBI. You also fired Steve Jensen, who served the FBI for nearly 2 decades and ran critical terrorism, counterintelligence, and organized crime operations, whom you once described as embodying what the American public demands of the FBI. But he was fired because he took part in investigating crimes committed on January 6th. And Trump's MAGA base lambasted you online for keeping him at the FBI. So he's no longer at the FBI. You also fired a decorated combat veteran with decades of experience in the Bureau, Special Agent Walter Jardia, because he worked on the investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election and helped investigate Trump's ally, Peter Navarro. Director Patel, it is very clear that you have flunked your own test. You've put saving your job, which I actually believe you were being honest about during your confirmation hearings, over doing what's right for the FBI and the American people. That is not adherence to the law. Thank you, and I yield back.
Deborah Ross didn't walk into that hearing to play along with political pleasantries. She came prepared, with facts, with transcripts, and with a strategy. What made her exchange with Director Kash Patel so powerful was its precision. No theatrics, no hypotheticals, no partisan grandstanding, just a clear, measured dismantling of the narrative Patel had carefully built during his confirmation hearings, and she did it using his own words. Patel had previously assured lawmakers and the American people that under his leadership, the FBI would remain above politics. No loyalty tests, no retaliatory firings, no interference based on case subject or political affiliation. Those promises were made under oath, but Ross held up those assurances like a mirror and compared them to the pattern of decisions made since Patel took office. The reflection was damning. She started calmly, giving Patel every opportunity to double down on his earlier claims. Does the FBI consider political affiliation when making personnel decisions? Do agents get punished for simply doing their jobs? Patel responded with what sounded like strong denials. No, never. But Ross came armed with evidence. Lawsuits from former senior FBI officials, agents with decades of decorated service, who say they were fired or pushed out not for wrongdoing, but for the investigations they pursued. Investigations into January 6th, into Russian election interference, into associates of former President Trump. These weren't rank-and-file agents. They were department heads, counterintelligence leaders, veterans of operations against ISIS, officers with valor medals, people who've risked their lives to protect this country, and they say they were punished because their work became politically inconvenient. Instead of grappling with that reality, Patel retreated behind vague references to ongoing litigation, refusing to acknowledge the direct contradiction between his actions and his testimony. Ross didn't need to shout. Her methodical approach, contrasting Patel's denials with sworn lawsuits and internal agency data, spoke louder than any dramatic soundbite. And this is where the danger lies, because what we're seeing isn't just a personnel issue. It's a slow, subtle reshaping of one of America's most powerful institutions into a political instrument. When law enforcement leadership starts asking agents who they voted for, when careers are ended for investigating the wrong people, when loyalty to a political figure replaces loyalty to the Constitution, that's not neutral governance, that's institutional decay. Ross's questioning illuminated this creeping threat with clarity and control. She made clear that these aren't isolated mistakes. They're a pattern, a choice, and one that threatens the foundations of our democracy. What she exposed should alarm every American, regardless of political affiliation, because a democracy cannot survive if its justice system becomes a tool of personal power. Accountability, transparency, and independence aren't just buzzwords. They're democratic lifelines. And that's why we're watching. That's why we're covering these hearings. To bring context, clarity, and truth. Stay with us on Liberal Lens for more critical breakdowns like this, because knowing how power is used or abused is how we keep it in check. Kash Patel vowed under oath to keep politics out of the FBI, but Deborah Ross brought the receipts, revealing documented actions he never wanted exposed. This isn't theory, it's an undeniable fact.